Greetings everybody, Brad here with Mild Mannered EDC. I hope you're all doing really well. Today we're going to talk about the Ferrum Forge Stinger, which is a design that's been around for a while. I think Ferrum Forge's original Stinger was back in like 2015, and then there was a version that came out just a year or so ago, or maybe 2 years at this point, that was kind of a little more budget version, kind of G10, etc. But this is the latest iteration, and this is fairly recent, at least at the date of this posting. But it's got some upgrades in terms of some materials, as well as in cost, and its construction is a little bit different too. And so I thought, because I know this is a popular design and a popular style of knife, and Ferrum Forge is a popular brand. This one happens to be manufactured by We Knives, which many of their knives are. But I thought it's popular enough that it would be worth at least looking at the latest variant. It's not going to be a kind of a traditional review, more of an overview than anything else. And I thought I'd just kind of walk you through where some of the differences are, where it got some changes, and just kind of my overall thoughts, if that's something you're interested in. So we'll do a few specs here real quick, and then a couple of size comparisons, and then we'll just kind of start walking through where some of the differences are. So we've got a 3.2 inch blade with a 2.75 inch cutting surface because of this large finger choil. A blade thickness here on this blade of 0.117, so nearly 0.12. Gives you a handle length when it's all closed up of 4.1 inches, a handle thickness of 0.39 inches. So overall tip to tail here, we've got a 7.3 inch knife and a weight of 2.8 ounces. So this is a very part of the reason I think the Stinger is as successful and as well liked as it is because it's a very carryable, pocketable, usable EDC design. It's just a great EDC design, and for a lot of folks, I think it hits a sweet spot. Certainly does for me in terms of dimensions. In particular, that 0.39 inches in terms of width, as in this way. That's quite compact and really nice in the pocket. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But okay, how about a couple of size comparisons though? Maybe a couple other Ferrum Forge knives. Here is the Mini Archbishop. Sorry, it's a little bit dirty, but it gets some use. And here's one of my favorite Ferrum Forge knives that I own anyways, and that is the Ferrum Forge Exec. And there's actually a couple of similarities to the Exec that we'll talk about as we go through this as well in terms of the overview. For non-Ferrum Forge knives, how about we'll throw out there you go, Civivi Backlash and a Spyderco Sage 5 Lightweight. So that gives you a sense of kind of what we're dealing with, especially if this design is new to you. All right, so a couple of things I want to chat about. As I mentioned, this is very much similar to it is essentially the same design that's been out for some time, but they did do some upgrades, at least in terms of material and pricing. So this particular variant, and there's sort of three variants that you can get, at least there's two available, but three that were offered, at least around the time of this video posting. And that is a plain titanium version, so it's titanium on both sides, just like this, without the inlay. That'll run you about $175. There's a marbled carbon fiber version, or at least so you'll get this. You'll maintain this titanium on the clip side as well as on the show side, but you'll have an inlay of marbled carbon fiber. That'll run you about $210. And then there's this uni copper version, which is, at least in my understanding, sort of thin strips of copper kind of embedded into the carbon fiber, and then as it's processed and refined, it kind of creates this neat look, kind of a tigery kind of look, right? I think it's pretty cool. It's orange, kind of orangey and black, right? Hard to argue with that. But I thought it was cool, and I was glad I nabbed one of these when I did, because this is, of the three, this is the only one that's not at least available at the moment. It has sold out. So there you go, womp womp, but it is what it is. And again, that's kind of why I didn't want to do a whole formal review, because if you can't get this one, it doesn't really help you a lot. But the other two are available, and you may want to consider those. So, all right, steel on the blade is Nitro V. It says that right there. That is the same as is offered on the more budget end type of stingers, which run you about $89, $90, something like that. I was a little surprised they didn't upgrade this to like a 20 CV, especially considering that cost, which is a pretty considerable jump in price. But I like Nitro V, so I didn't really have a huge problem with that. And Nitro V, frankly, if it's heat treated properly, it can hang with some of the bigger boys, I think, in terms of just overall edge retention and things like that. So and durability, I'm a fan of Nitro V, so it doesn't really bother me. So you do kind of get you get that sort of classic drop point blade, which is really attractive on the Stinger. These deep, purposefully deep fullers there that allow you to do kind of this flicking motion. You can get it with your thumb, but there you go. I don't find that quite as fun as doing kind of the middle finger flick or just opening it through a standard flipper motion like that. As I did talk about, you do have this big pronounced finger choil, and even my Shrek fingers feel nice and comfortable in that, so it is a legit finger choil with a little bit of mild jumping there on the top. So nice stonewash blade. It's a pretty blade and a pretty blade design with some functional use. You could maybe tend to get some gunk in here, as these, it's not a full sort of hole in the blade. It's kind of that deep fuller, but it's never bothered me. All right, action. This is a flipper frame lock. Obviously, you do have an over travel stop and lock bar inserts. That just adds a nice touch there. Running on cage ceramic ball bearings, all the things you'd expect from a high quality Wii knife, and certainly from a quality design from Ferrum Forge. A couple points as we move then. So action, I don't have any complaints on the action, right? It's just fine. It'll continue to wear in, but the action is great. It's not quite as smooth and silky as the Ferrum Forge Exec, which I think is one of their best that they've done. And I still love the Exec. That's kind of why I keep it, is primarily because it's just got such a nice smooth action, apart from just being a classy design. But speaking of the Exec, let's kind of pull that in, because I think that's where we go, and kind of the focus of this, right, is on these scales, which are new to the Stinger here, getting this titanium. Now, this titanium, particularly where you can just see it really well on the clip side, very reminiscent of it looks like Wii titanium, right? They sort of have this darker, tumbly, stonewashy kind of look to their titanium. It's not... I don't mean that to say it's unattractive at all. In fact, I like it quite a bit. I think it resists kind of snail trails and other things like that. So it's nice, but it's not that kind of shiny titanium that you might expect from maybe like a Kaiser T1 or something like that. It doesn't have that look. It does have that bit of a darker stonewashy kind of finish, as you can see there. So just be aware, and certainly if you get one without the inlay, you're going to see that on both sides. But I like it. I think it looks nice. Provides a little bit of a contrast between the kind of a color of the blade or shading of the blade. I don't know, what do you call that? What do you call that? The sort of, it's not color, but I guess it's just the finish of the blade, right? That's slightly lighter gray color. So there you go. Now, it does have, obviously, I mentioned this is that unique copper inlay. There is the marble carbon fiber version, or the plain titanium. I like this a lot. I think it's cool. The inlay work is done quite nicely. It looks like there's a bigger edge there, or maybe a point of a gap, if you will. It looks bigger than it is, I guess is what I would say. And I wouldn't consider it a huge gap or anything like that, because I think it's done pretty darn well. Everything transitions quite smoothly, so there's no real bumps or anything like that. So while it might look like it has a bit of an outline, which again, not super uncommon when you compare it to this, and likewise, there's sort of the fit and finish of that actually in reality when you get it in hand is quite nice. So no complaints there. Where I do have a little bit of a complaint are on these two screws, and I'm not really sure why they had to go this route. And again, not to continue to draw comparisons, but I am, because I think it's similar in what they tried to do with these two knives. This does not have any screws in the inlay work there, and this does too, and they're both kind of shiny silver. And you do feel a transition with those two screws. Now, they're countersunk, or at least they're flathead screws, whatever. But I'm not sure why they had to do that. And they do screw directly into the titanium. I don't know if you can see that in there. Probably not, but they do screw directly into that titanium. So if you ever had an issue with that, I assume these are glued and screwed. I haven't taken this apart yet, actually, in all honesty. So I'll update down in the comments if and when I take this apart, what that looks like. But I'm a little nervous because I don't want to ruin the edges around the inlay work. So anyways, not huge on that. I wish this had just been a kind of a solid feature there. I think that would have looked a little nicer, personally. and maybe felt a little bit nicer in hand as well. Okay, the other thing though I do want to draw attention to, and one of the things I like a lot, is this is two-piece construction, so you do have two scales pulled together with sort of this built-in integrated backspacer, part of it for each side. Again, similar to what they did on the exec. And I think that's a really elegant and nice way of constructing a knife, because you eliminate that additional piece of a backspacer or something like that. Or those barrel standoffs or things that I'm just not a huge fan of. So I really do like this style of, it's not quite an integral, right? Because it's not one single piece, but it's darn close because you just have the two slabs put together. So I do like that a lot, and I think that's a nice addition and a nice choice in terms of building this knife out. Also, you've got a titanium clip here. It's nice. It does the job. I don't have any problem. It seems weirdly small. And maybe it's just perspective to me, but it looks weirdly small to me. No problem in the pocket. It's plenty springy and all that kind of good stuff. And they did a really excellent job of countersinking it into the titanium, into the scale, and then using these flat pan head screws. Access obviously easy. So I like that a lot. You'll notice there is no lanyard hole. Yep, no lanyard hole on here. It doesn't bother me, but it might bother you, so keep that in mind. So those are kind of the main changes here with scales and hardware. I'm not going to go too much more into this. I mean, the ergos continue to be very good, just like the original Stinger. I mean, it is the original Stinger design. It's just kind of updated with these. Does it justify the price? Maybe that's the biggest question. I don't know. I definitely could see people complaining that for that, the base one, $175, that feels a little better to me. The $210 for these with the inlays, that feels a bit more expensive, and maybe, I don't know, maybe $20 more, or maybe $15 more than, then you start quibbling. I don't know. I paid it. I like this knife. I think this is a well-made, well-put-together knife. I think this is a unique inlay, even apart from these two screws, which I'm not a huge fan of. I dig it. I think it looks cool. I'll probably end up keeping it, but it's not, it's a lot of money, I think, especially for a Nitro V. I can see people complaining, why not 20CV or M390 or something like that. But again, I like Nitro V, so it didn't bother me. So again, I think these are all things you just have to decide for yourself. Feels a little steep. Let me just put it that way. It does feel a little steep price-wise. But again, you're getting good classic Wii construction that I feel is right on par, maybe not quite as buttery smooth out of the gate as the exec, but right on par in terms of fit and finish and things like that. So there you go. That's what we've got here. Semi-quick kind of overview of the Ferrum Forge kind of latest update to the Stinger. I hope you've enjoyed this. It's a neat knife. Check it out. Like I said, they still have some of these available on their website directly. I think they've got them on Blade HQ as well. Just again, not this Unicopper version, but it's sold out so fast they may be putting more out. So who knows? Anyways, so there you go. I hope that's helpful. If you're looking to pick one of these up, feel free to put any questions or comments or thoughts down in the comments, and I'll try to respond as best I can. More than anything, though, please stay safe out there. Be mild-mannered to one another, and all the best.